Hello and welcome to TRT World. This is our continuing coverage of the earthquakes that hit Türkiye and Syria. I'm Imran Garda. Last week's twin earthquakes in Kahramanmaras destroyed thousands of homes. Buried under the rubble lie the kitchens and restaurants that once fed millions of people in the region. And that was one of the main priorities right after the quake struck: how to provide meals for those who have nothing to eat and nowhere to go. One group of chefs stepped up to help alleviate that problem. Zeynep Gökçe has this report.
This is a place where earthquake survivors in the Turkish city of Kahramanmaras can enjoy a hot meal. And it's all thanks to celebrity chef Mehmet Yalçınkaya. He came from Istanbul soon after the quakes to run this kitchen with a team of volunteers. Both he and his suppliers share the expenses, which allows them to serve around 7,000 meals a day.
This is a safe building where survivors can stay and eat. We also serve police officers, disaster management staff, and rescue teams. Everyone's here.
Our house is damaged, so we are afraid to go there. Here they provide us everything from a place to stay to food and clothes.
Chef Ömür Akkor arrived in Kahramanmaras as a volunteer to help locals in whatever way he could. But after several days, he stumbled upon this space, which he decided to rent and offer free meals for the next 6 months.
I was just thinking we should rent this place. I thought we'll turn it into a restaurant and a new life will start here. I found the owner, we made a deal, and then I decided to call it the Life Again Restaurant. We can't ease people's pains. The lost ones won't come back, but somehow life must start again here.
And in the city of Gaziantep, the Turkish Red Crescent set up a kitchen. Istanbul-based chef Rafet İnce helped prepare meals there during the first days after the quake, before heading to other affected villages. He says this kitchen is one of the main food distribution points, where volunteers will work in rotation for the next 6 months.
We are capable of feeding up to 100,000 people daily, and these meals are distributed to all the districts and villages of Gaziantep, Kahramanmaras, and Hatay.
Soon after the earthquakes, Türkiye's first 2 Michelin star chef Fatih Tutak rushed to set up a kitchen in Hatay's İskenderun district. He also called on other chefs to do the same, one being Jose Andres. The Spaniard is among the most experienced chefs to work in disaster zones. Through his non-profit organization, World Central Kitchen, he provides meals in many spots across the impacted areas. But not everybody has made it here. A group of chefs in Istanbul have instead teamed up at the kitchens of Bahçeşehir University to prepare and send food from afar. The initiative has grown since day one, with many brands offering to help with both food supplies and transportation.
We're cooking meals in hope they will help survivors recover both physically and mentally. We're working with food engineers to deliver the meals in the safest way possible.
As these chefs do all they can to help, some women in rural areas are also baking bread for the earthquake survivors. Meanwhile, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has promised that every single person affected by the disaster will receive both material and moral support for as long as it takes. And with the kitchens now running full steam, it may be a shorter road to recovery if more people are willing to stand the heat. Zeynep Gökçe, TRT World.
Joining me now from Gaziantep is Jose Andres. He's a chef and the founder of World Central Kitchen. Chef Jose and his team set up mobile kitchens in earthquake-affected areas, helping to feed survivors. Chef Jose, really good to have you on the program. How is it going in Gaziantep right now?
Well, I just arrived literally 5 minutes ago. I've been in Gaziantep already a couple of times. I will say the city obviously had some damage, but it's not the damage we've seen in so many other cities. Here I'm talking from one of the kitchens that we set up around 3-4 days ago. We partner, like we always do, with local people, in this case with 2 local foundations, the Gaziantep, Yardim Bakki, and the Empathy Dernegi. We've been hosted, and here we've been able to do this kitchen that is going to be able to be doing 10, 15,000 meals a day. And that's what we've been doing, opening different kitchens, joining other kitchens, partnering with local restaurants. We have more than 35 restaurants right now working with us. This is the smartest way to do it, the quickest way to do it. We're able to support the local restaurant community, who at the same time, they know best who in the community needs help beyond all the camps that Afat is setting all across here, Turkey, in the earthquake damaged area.
And what's the biggest challenge facing you and your team right now?
Well, I'm going to say that the challenge that the poor people without homes are facing. Their challenges are our challenges. We want to be here supporting the Turkish people, making sure that obviously the camps are being very well taken care of by Afat and the systems they are creating. But is a lot of other people that may not be in those camps in a lot of communities that we are trying to look for them and telling them food is not going to be one of the problems you are going to be facing. That's why we're here, to make sure that nobody in Turkey in this earthquake area is not going to go hungry. So the challenge, I would say, one of the biggest ones will be how cold it is. The challenge for us is to make sure that we are able to provide in the north, for example, in all the different cities that we have in the north. I've been there myself 3-4 days over the last 8-9 days, to make sure that when at night the temperatures are like in Alvistan, -10, -20 degrees, that we're able to provide meals that are really hot, that they're really nutritious. And I would say this is the biggest challenge, but it's a challenge that is easy overcome with all the kitchens that we are building near the people, so the meals can always be very hot, because right now a hot meal is not only nourishment, but also we know a hot meal is what sometimes the only way people have to warm up their bodies.
What is on the menu right now?
In this kitchen, I use a rifle, and they have all these different dishes. I'm looking behind. Is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's like 10 pots happening. But I will ask as soon as I finish. I use literally a rifle, but you can know one thing, that the dishes are traditional Turkish foods. Why? Because the people we are working with, they are amazing Turkish chefs and cooks. And what best than to serve the locals, like we do everywhere we go, the food they love. It's smart because it's what the people know how to cook, and it's smart because are the ingredients that you have nearby. So you do local because it's just the smartest thing to do in Turkey or in any other of the countries we set these kitchens after emergencies.
That's very beautiful to hear. Chef Jose, how much longer do you expect to continue to do your work for in the aftermath of this disaster?
We always say that World Central Kitchen, we are usually one of the first organizations to show up, and usually we are one of the last organizations to leave. Obviously, the teams here at World Central Kitchen, I consider myself, even I'm the founder, just one more volunteer. We are planning here to be many weeks, few months, until we see that the situation it's stabilized and they don't need us any longer. We are not a hunger organization. We are specifically a food emergency organization. When we feel the emergency is kind of over, and the restaurants open again and the supermarkets open again, and people already start knowing where they're going to be living, especially those people that lost their homes, in that moment, slowly but surely we'll be moving out. But for now, I want you to know that the Turkish people can know that World Central Kitchen is going to be here next to the Turkish people until everything, hopefully, will be back to normal again.
Well, in the face of unimaginable tragedy, you are all doing amazing work, and it's really heartwarming. Chef Jose, thank you very much for joining us on the program. I wish you all the best.
Thank you for having me. I wanted to end that yesterday we reached 1 million meals.
Yeah.
I know it's only putting the finger in one hole of the many holes. But again, I'm very proud that we've been able to do this next to the amazing Turkish people.
Brilliant. Take care. All the best. Well, joining me here in studio is Claudio Chinali, the director and executive chef at Eataly, Istanbul. He just returned from Malatya, where he set up a kitchen providing meals for survivors. Amazing work, Claudio. Well done. And, you know, I think so many people are so appreciative of chefs and others who went down to the south, to the southeast, decided to help. What was it like for you?
It was natural. It was very normal. It was a super moment when it happened, when we heard about it. We all understand at that moment that we had to do something. You know, normally we cook for a customer, we cook for their happiness. So it was very easy for us to understand what we have to make. We know how to make one thing. We know how to cook, and we know how to cook for a lot of customers as well in our stores. So our first reaction was, okay, let's organize well, because it's just not about feeding them, it's feeding them well. It's very important.
How do you actually get to feed them well? When you get there, who organizes the logistics? Where do you get your groceries from? Where does the food come from? Who makes the decision about what you feed them?
On that side, we get a huge support from our main company and from Mehmet Zorlu Association, the foundation that is helping the Zorlu Group. So we get help from them for the logistic. We arrived there with 20 cooks and 9 technicians to build up the kitchen. We arrived with 2 tiers of goods: rice, beans, lentils, milk, and all this kind of stuff. The first 2-3 days was very tough because we arrived in the Malatya Stadium and we built up from scratch. There was nothing, and it was minus 10 degrees. It was very cold. We wasn't have any place to sleep, so we had to find. And after we sleep in the changing room of the house team in the Malatya Stadium. We put there our bed, we had some linens, and we started to cook. We start to create as well a nice depot system that follow, you know, all the FIFA rules to be sure that the food is not get lost. Because actually the most important thing is not just cooking, but as well manage the goods, because this emergency will be very long and we have to use our goods in a very smart way.
Right. You get there, you have a plan, you have an idea of the amount of people you will feed. Tell me how that changes.
When we arrived, we was thinking that maybe we have to make 2,000, 3,000 meal for each meal, so 8,000 to 9,000 meal a day. So from the first day, it was already much more. It was already 20, 25,000. Then, after one day, they arrived to us and say, "Chef, we need 15 to 20,000 meal for every meal."
Wow.
So it became 45, 50,000.
Wow.
And now we are receiving, with the help of another company, more than 24 fire to arrive to 130, 150,000 meal a day. So it is very complicated to understand from outside.
Yeah.
But when you are inside, it becomes just an organization thing.
And yeah, you're scaling up and up and up
We
and
are
up.
scaling up. Of course, we need people. What
Yeah.
I'm telling now is that we need people that want to help, because it will be very long. We don't tend to forget that this is not an emergency that will stand for a week or two. This is just the beginning. So now we made everything with our emotional power. We arrived there, we was very hit by this disaster, but now we have to be rational. We have to manage it on long term, for months, for weeks. And to manage that for weeks, we need a lot of people that are ready to help for the cause.
And so when you're there, you're not in the pristine, controllable environment of Zorlu, right? So you're in an unpredictable environment. There's the possibility of disease. You don't have the services of maybe water and electricity given the disaster zone. So how do you ensure that the food is going to be good, is going to be safe? Tell me a little bit about that.
So at the beginning, for this reason, we bring with us 9 people from technical team.
Yeah.
That was very important. was the first thing that they did was connecting electricity from the stadium. So one need was solved.
Right.
Second need was make the situation for the volunteer good to make them work, because otherwise the people get tired, get sick very fast. So we put the heat up system, so the heaters start to work. Then the water, hot water after 3-4 days start to arrive. Now we are bringing them, after a week of experience, a filter for the water. So we can start to cook as well with the water that we are getting from the central system, because actually the water is dirty because it's damaged by the earthquake. As well, we are trying to set up there a small hospital area, like where the people have some issue, because when you're cooking, you can burn, you can cut, and everything. But as well, we are giving psychology support. Before going there, to our people, we are giving a psychological support. And when they come back, they have to make a session with our psychologist to have a support about this. Because when we are there, we work very hard. We don't find out how many energy we are spending. But when you finish, all the tiring is coming, because even 1 second that you are seated and you are not working, you feel in a way guilty. And this is strange psychology that happened over there.
Now, I have to move on, but before we move on, what did the people enjoy the most from what you cooked?
Enjoy the love that we use to make the food. One thing that really I need to say about this country is their kindness when we send them the food. One of the most common answers that we get when we send them the food was, thank you, but don't give me too much. There is a lot of people that need it. I was really surprised that in a moment of such a disaster, of such a sadness, it was still very human. And this is give us the strength and the strength to go forward.
Oh, amazing. Claudio, I thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
All the best.
Bye.
Feeding survivors in the days and weeks after a devastating earthquake is absolutely vital. But equally crucial is ensuring safe supplies of food and water in the months and years ahead, both to ward off infectious diseases caused by contamination and to avoid long-term risks like malnutrition. Because if past earthquakes tell us anything, the first few weeks after a disaster are critical. For instance, after the massive Indian Ocean tsunami in 2004 that killed more than 280,000 people, generational problems were left behind. UNICEF reported that about 13% of the children in Indonesia's Banda Aceh province suffered from acute malnutrition due to chronic food shortages after the quake. Also, the catastrophic 2005 Pakistan earthquake was followed by more than 1,200 cases of hepatitis A and E. Diseases spiked due to inadequate sewage and sanitation systems, as well as a lack of clean drinking water. And when a devastating magnitude 7 earthquake struck Haiti in 2010, cholera cases exploded across the country. It killed more than 4,500 people and sickened nearly 300,000. Well, joining me now from here in Istanbul is Tuğba Karagüller. She's a member of the Board of Directors at Islamic Relief Türkiye. And from Manchester, we have Mazen Al-Husseini. He's a capacity strengthening advisor at Help Age International, an NGO that promotes health and safety. Good to have you both on the program. Tuğba, just if you could emphasize for us how important it is to feed people well and give them access to good food, clean water and the like to help prevent further tragedy that doesn't compound the initial tragedy.
Actually, what we call food security is that all people access to adequate, healthy and nutritious food at all times for a healthy life, especially after earthquake such as we are experiencing now. So based on this definition, a range of response measures are involved in order to predict and determine adequate relief food supplies, appropriate food items, health and nutritional considerations, and various food assistance options. So it's very important for those people who had the shock after this earthquake, they first need to have the basic needs in order to alive. They are in shock, and physically and psychologically. So the basic needs should be firstly met, like food, water, hygiene requirements. We do not want people to escape from the disaster just because they feel like they are going to die because of the lack of these primary needs.
Yeah, interesting point. Mazen, we have the ripples of these earthquakes affecting people in different ways, and especially across the border. So in Turkey, strong institutions, a lot of strong coordination on the ground, and access to places far smoother than it is in a place like Syria. Tell me about some of the challenges facing your organization and others when it comes to feeding people in a place like Syria, which is still war-torn.
Yeah, the main challenge that the Syrian organizations have faced from day one of the earthquake is the lack of the international rescue teams. In Turkey, they have the privilege to accommodate and host a number of international teams from various countries. In Syria, in northwest Syria, particularly in non-governmental areas, we did not have that privilege, which have increased the number of casualties, unfortunately. Now, particularly about food and clean water. So other challenges as well is that previously the Syrians were relying on the Turkish market and the infrastructure in order to cross the border with those items from Turkey to Syria, either for private companies or through charities. But unfortunately, at the time being, both locations are affected. The southern region of Turkey as well as the northern region of Syria. So the market that we used to rely on is defunctioning at the time being. At the time being, we are using the resources that we have in the local market, but it's going to be, it's not unlimited at the time being. So at the end of the day, we will face a challenge in that, the shortage of items until the borders are functioning well, until the trades is returning back as it was before.
Yeah, Tuba, does Mazen just highlight the need for coordination and for those who have the power and the ability to make massive decisions to smooth the process for you?
Yeah, definitely. It's very important, actually. Resource and coordination, the process management is very crucial in such cases as well. So actually, to be ready for this situation is not enough because we do not know what kind of and what scale are we gonna face. But in our case, in this earthquake, we use as Islamic relief. We had already offices in Gaziantep and in Syria, so that also provided us flexibility to take quicker, very fast action and intervene for the case for those impacted people by the earthquake.
Tuba, when you had your meeting today with your Islamic relief colleagues, given that we're now more than a week and a half after the earthquakes, what are you talking about exactly right now when you say we need to act on this, we need to deploy people? What are you dealing with at this moment in time?
Well, actually, accommodation is the primary problem that we need to resolve together. So there are people still living in tents, and then the container problem is there. And also, in near term, we need those people to be in more safe buildings. So in the construction of the buildings is another projects that we are talking about. But currently, actually, in terms of food nutritious aspects, we are also continuously providing food cards that is also giving flexibility to those people who are affected and those also who has availability of reaching to the markets as well.
Oh.
So we will continue on.
I see. Oh, so they get food cards that they can take to the market, and I would assume that
Yes.
there's an amount of money loaded on the cards.
Right.
I see.
And we are planning to increase the value of those cards in time. And that also gives the flexibility to the people in the third phase, now we are in the second phase, what we call. In the third phase, that once they start relocating to the other cities, to their relatives and etc., then carrying those cards will be very much easier instead of carrying the food boxes. So this is something that continues, and we had already, actually, this was our previous project, continuous project. We just now increased the number of beneficiaries, of course.
Right, that's excellent to hear. Mazen, what do you need? What does your organization need in order to do your job better, in order to feed people better, give them access to water, and in a sanitized way and in a good way, give them access to the things that they need to help them recover from this earthquake?
The needs at the time being are high. So we in HelpAge are trying to mainstream all people and people with disabilities first. All of the people at the end need support, but at the end, we do not want to forget those old people as well as their families. In Northwest Syria, we have seen a lot of cases where the nanny or the grandpa is taking care of their orphans, the grandsons, their granddaughters. So we need to ensure that we are supporting them at the end of the day and they are not feeling alone. There is additional support needed in addition to food security, such as mental health care, such as taking care of their health and medical conditions, especially with those chronic diseases.
I thank you very much, both of you, Tuba and Mazen, for joining us here on this special earthquake coverage on TRT World.